Leominster City Council meeting is funded in part by DeCarolis Insurance Agency at www.decarolisinsuranceagency.com and by Avidia Bank at www.avidiabank.com.
A public hearing scheduled for 6:35 on C-68. This is from Dean J. Mazzarella. Mayor requests the acceptance of the CDBG Budget Action Plan for the City of Leominster, year 48. My name is Pauline Cormier. I'm the chair of the Ways and Means Committee, and with us tonight is Ellen Racine. And Ellen, if you would just introduce yourself and explain. There's some people that don't know really what the CDBG program and action plan is about, so if you give us a little information, a little background.
My name is Ellen Racine. I work for the Community Development Office. I'm the Housing and Community Development Block Grant Coordinator. We get this money from HUD every year. We anticipate the money that we've gotten from the year before.
Ellen, is your microphone on?
Probably not, because I think I'm just really loud, so I just thought. Okay. Is that on now? No.
Is it,
It's
got a little red dot?
Yeah, it's on. It's on. I think it's on.
Yeah.
Okay. We anticipate what we're getting from the year before. The next year, every time if we get more, it's a bonus. But it goes by our core area map, and that tells how many low-income Leominster residents we actually have. We're supposed to use 51% or more to help that specific area. We have about 12 nonprofits in town that we support every year. We do a very small amount of our budget. We're only allowed to do 25% for our nonprofits. I'm sorry, 15% for our nonprofits and 20% for our admin. The best thing we do, this is my opinion, is the housing rehab program. We're having a hard time with it simply because we don't have a housing rehab person. We cut that position to part-time a few years ago. It has not gone back to full-time yet. For that reason, we have not been able to hire anybody. Beyond all that, last year during the pandemic, we helped 135 people. We helped them with things that could be as minor as a hot water tank, which I know seems minor to some people, but some people who don't have $2,000, it's a big deal. The other people, we help things like roofs, windows, rehabbing. We don't remodel, but we do rehab. We spent well over our amount like we do every year. Luckily, we have program income, which comes from people paying back their loans, which are called a loan. There are 0% interest loans that they get when we do the work. It gets paid back to the city, and we get to do more work with it. Last year, we spent $380,000. We put away $120,000 to help them with it, because that's what we're capped at. This year, we're also introducing a new program. It's Ginny's Helping Hands, which is the Pantry Program. We used some of the COVID funds this year, and it seemed to be very successful, and we're just doing a small amount. Anybody else that we seem to add into, it's very difficult to take away from the other nonprofits we already support, and we don't ever want to cut from anybody. This year, what I cut from actually was the mayor's summer youth program that we usually hire 6 low-income youth. For some reason, the last couple of years, we're suffering at finding 6 low-income youth, and also since we don't have a housing rehab full-time person, we don't have a person that runs that program. So it's been kind of a struggle to even that out, and a lot of children I meet don't seem to want to work. The last time we did it was 2 years ago. We hired 3, worked out pretty fine. But this year I did cut a significant amount for that so we could fit in Ginny's and so that we could double up on our energy assistance program, because we do see the need as being huge to help people in winter time, whether they're seniors or just low income with their energy bills.
Ellen,
Besides that, obviously there's money spent on salaries.
okay. Ellen, what is can you walk me through, just say, like the application process? So somebody,
For rehab,
say for rehab, yeah.
okay, so we have an application, it's approved by HUD. Usually I walk someone through trying to get it online, or it's mailed to them, or I go to their house and we fill it out together. It depends on their needs, obviously. They have to go through quite a bit. The application's very easy, it's only 2 pages, but you have to be low income. So you have to meet the income guidelines which are set by HUD. I have to get a copy of their deed to their house, and I need whatever income documents they make, whether it's Social Security, whether it's unemployment, it doesn't matter, we take a copy of it and we figure out what they made for the year, or a copy of last year's taxes, puts them in the income bracket. Then they become eligible for the program, as long as they're in the income guidelines, obviously. There's 80 documents that go into everybody's folders in order to help one person, for example, get a roof. There's a 27-page document that we have to do that's an environmental review. It's a huge amount of paperwork that goes into helping each person because HUD requires that. So obviously, that's what the admin person and myself do to try to help each person.
Okay. And you said last year you helped 135 individuals?
Yep.
Is that number an increase from prior years, or you?
Yeah, that's a big number increase, actually. We helped a lot of people when mock was, we'll call it closed, even though they weren't really closed, but they were acting like they were closed. I guess they were having a hard time with help, and they just refused to answer the phone.
Okay. Ellen, besides the rehab, what do you see as the greatest benefit to the community, the CDBG plan?
Well,
Is it the rehab?
I think it's the rehab program because it helps so many different people. But besides that, I guess it's pretty helpful that we help 11 nonprofits. Without that money, they tell us all the time that they don't know if they can stay functioning in town.
Okay. And that's simply a monetary donation to them through this program?
Yep, but they have to do things back for us each month. They have to count all their people. They have to fill out monthly documents. They have to prove the billing.
Okay.
There's quite a few things they have to do back together.
So there is some accountability
Yep.
towards those funds?
Yep.
Great. Ellen, that's all the questions I have. I'm going to turn it over to other members of my committee to see if they have any follow-up questions as well. Councilor Ardinger?
Thank you very much. Ellen, thank you for coming down tonight. When I look at this, but my first glance at this, I said, it doesn't seem like a lot of money going to nonprofits, but you're limited. You can't really
We
go
are limited by
15% to you, that's it.
Yep.
The youth program, that $2,650, that's cut this year, or is that?
Yeah, usually it's 13,000. It was 15,000 at one time. I went down to 13,000, and now I cut it so I can hire, hopefully, one person.
One person, huh?
One person for 6 weeks.
Oh.
That's what that would be.
That's disappointing. I hate to say that, but it's from my perspective, because it seems like there would be a lot of young people, especially low-income people, that would be welcome to get a job for the summer.
You would think so.
Yeah. The loan program was, I didn't realize that you
The
had.
108 loan?
Yeah, there's 0% interest loans.
No.
Oh.
The 108 loan is from, it's a 20-year loan.
Okay.
It started, we're in year 12 of it. It was for sidewalks.
Oh, for sidewalks.
Yeah, we took
Okay.
it out. I believe it was either 350 or 400,000 at the time. So
Oh.
we're paying it back in little increments every year.
Okay.
So that's the amount we owe back this year.
All right,
Every
great.
year it seems to go up just a little bit. We have 8 years left in paying it off.
Paying it off, okay,
Yeah.
great. All right. No, I'm, to be honest with you, Ellen, I am really impressed with what you're doing because especially with all the administrative work, 27-page documents, 80 pages.
Yeah, there's a lot to it.
So just, it's quite a job, but it seems to be a great program for the city. I'm glad we can get the money and seems to be well spent. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ellen, can you just review with us the budget quickly and let us know which areas have increased, which areas have decreased? Or do they range at about the same?
It ranges about the same, because remember, this is a guesstimate to what we're getting. So this is from the dollar amount that we got last year.
Okay.
So the things that have changed a little bit would be what I was talking about with Mayor's Summer Youth Program. Like Mr. Hunter was saying, 2,650. It was 13,000. So that leaves about 11 roughly. We gave 5,000 more to the Energy Assistance Program.
Okay.
We gave Ginny's a starter-up amount of $2,000. If we ever have anybody join in, it's always very difficult actually to join in, since you don't want to take away from any of the existing programs that are already there, because
Okay.
cutting their funding would really hurt them.
Okay.
We also tried to increase everybody versus nobody. I think there's maybe one person I didn't increase, but that's because they've kind of plateaued, and that would be North Star, the homeless shelter.
Okay.
They do a fantastic program, but they're also our highest if you look at it. They went up a couple years in a row, and then now we're kind of at our peak of it,
Okay.
since we're trapped by that 15%.
Okay. Thank you. Counselor Arden, Deacon, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you for coming tonight. I know Councilor Cormier mentioned the application process, just per se to HUD, but the overall process in regards to people per se wish list, do they come to you to apply? Say, police department's looking for a certain high-crime neighborhood for some extra money for patrols, or some money being appropriated towards a drug suppression unit or a fire safety program. Would they have to apply to the
We have to apply just like everybody else. We have, we post our hearings, our public hearings are in January. Gives everybody a fair chance and opportunity. There's also a deadline to it, so if you don't apply by then, you can't actually apply for the program at all.
Okay. Has public safety applied before, and have they been awarded any money, fire and police?
A couple of years ago, we did fire suppression, smoke detectors basically is what they were. So we helped 30 people in town. They asked for $2,500. We helped 30 low income that they knew of on their list.
Okay,
Besides that, with program income, which is a separate pot of money, it's not the money you see here, it's
Yep.
the money we get paid back. We do things, like this year, we're doing a program with Leominster Housing Authority for all the senior living units. It's Laurie Drive, George Street, and the towers. And we're replacing all the heat detectors and the systems themselves, which in other words is the brains, the boxes. And it's gonna be about $55,000 to do all that, but it's gonna help over 300 seniors, so.
good. Just one other question in regards to, obviously, the pandemic the last couple of years.
Yep.
Do you expect to have a bigger amount awarded? I know we're on an estimate right now, you said?
No, I think we'll get about the same, or maybe just a little tiny bit more. We did get money from COVID. It's a 3-year time period, ends June 30th, but we have 2 more years to spend it. We got $755,000.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Thank you, that's all I have. Thank you.
Any other members? Counselor Farida?
Ellen, maybe it would be a good idea, I know you can do it well. We have a number of new councilors. Maybe you should just explain briefly that it's a government program, it's a mayor's program, and just talk about how we get the money in, and that there are strict guidelines. We don't have any control over the amount that comes in. But just kind of go over the fact that it's a community development block grant, and how we use the money, and what basically the city's philosophy and the mayor's philosophy is for the community. And just touch on that a little bit so people can learn a little bit about it.
I don't know really what else to say beyond what I just said. That philosophy really comes from HUD, honestly, because we have to follow all their rules to spend any money. The problem is anybody can come up with new ideas or things they'd like to spend the money on, but if HUD doesn't approve it, I'm on the phone a lot with HUD simply because if someone comes in with a new idea, it has to be approved. And if it's a no, it's a no. You just have, the most important thing is you have to be low income. And low income in their eyes, not low income in mine or somebody else's.
I just wanted to add that I know I've sent a number of people to you over the years, and you're really good at what you do.
Oh.
I mean, I know there are a lot of elderly who all of a sudden find a problem with their home and they don't have the money to fix it.
No,
And,
and a lot of people don't know
and,
about it until somebody else
you
does.
know, you are really good with them, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
There, any other counselors? Counselor Erninger?
Sorry about, I just have one other question. You had mentioned that this has to be spent in a certain demographic area, geographic area, right? Roughly what is that?
Area map that we have online. It's basically the French Hill downtown area.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, okay, thank you.
That's where our
That's where the majority,
income-eligible people are
right,
supposed to live.
right.
Yep.
And this is the federal standard for low income?
This is how you actually ask for your money. You have to come up with a core area. So this is how we came up with our area 30 years ago. It's changed a little bit. It's gotten a little bit bigger, but not much. It's still the same area.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other counselors? Seeing none, I will open this up to the public, correct? Is there anyone here from the public who would like to speak on C-68? And a second time, is there anybody here from the public who would like to speak on C-68? And for a third and final time, seeing none, Mr. President, I would declare the public hearing closed.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ellen, very much for coming.
Thank you.
Perfect time.
And the timing is right on, that we can move right into our 6:50 PM public hearing for legal affairs.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have C-69. Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests the following sections of the City of Leominster Revised Ordinance, Chapter 16, Personnel, Article 2, Personnel Wage and Salary Plan, Division 3, Classification Plan, Section 16-34, Classification of Positions, be amended effective immediately to replace the existing classification with a new classification plan presented below. And we have a chart that shows the current classification, Assistant Purchasing Agent S5, and inserting in their place the following: Assistant Purchasing Agent, classification S7. And at this time, we are joined by Ms. Reddington and Mr. Chapdelaine. And
Evening,
would you
councilors.
please feel free to make your presentation.
So we're coming down, Greg's position has changed significantly over, the last several years, and this last year has been even crazier. It will continue to grow with the ARPA funds that have come in, and it's time that he, now has an assistant. In looking at the salaries that are in, the neighborhood, the S5 that it was currently at, we wouldn't be able to get somebody who has, any experience, and it would be a lot more work for Greg to, start and train somebody. So we're looking to increase it to the F7 so that we could potentially get somebody with experience that can help right away instead of having to start at ground zero.
And if I can add, going back to the S5, that's back when they used to have a purchasing agent and assistant, which for those of you who've been around a long time, I know I've been around a long time. That's when John Tata and Jimmy Lanciani were still here. So that's where that comes from.
I'm good. Let me, are you done?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean,
Well, that
if
was
anyone has
easy.
any questions?
Let me, I don't have any questions immediately. Let me go to, if I may, members of my committee. Council Dianna?
Yeah, either Jen or Greg, I remember a long time ago, I'm thinking when I was city solicitor, so that's probably 30 years ago, that there was an assistant. Was there not?
Jimmy Lanciani was the assistant.
Was the assistant, that's what I thought. How long has it been since there's been an assistant?
Since Jimmy. When I took over the position, that was it.
Wow.
It's been me for 23 years.
Okay.
And to, just as a comparison, if you look at most municipalities our size, there's multiple people. Fitchburg alone has had 3 people working in that office all those years that it's just been me. And that's been fine.
So you're finally given a...
It's, I figured, it's good to have an assistant, and Ms. Reddington shares that as well. You know, John Richard, rest his soul, you know, he didn't want to have an assistant anymore. It was about control and didn't feel comfortable with certain people. Going forward, the city, I can say this, I started in '93, and the city does a lot more work. There's a lot more activity in these nearly 30 years that I've been here than there ever was before. It's staggering. If we spent 2 hours going over everything the city does day in, day out, week in, week out, I think the taxpayers would be amazed what their money pays for. And unfortunately, or fortunately, a lot of that work flows through my office in the form of the bids and the contracts. And it's slowly been building over the years. And I'd say like the last 5 years, it's come to the point where departments have to wait, unfortunately, to get certain things. We have to triage what's important and what's not so important. And as Jennifer said, in the past year, with all this COVID money now, we're spending like drunken sailors, to coin a phrase, and there's just so much work, I can't keep up with it. So in addition to, it's good to have, we should get back to a point of having assistants like we did years ago when Jimmy and John were here in all the major departments, because if something happens to Jennifer or myself, a couple of years ago, I was out for an operation, and the recuperation period was several weeks, and they didn't do anything, you know. It just sat there. No one did it. No one did anything, you know, took care of any bids, so there was the stack when I came back. So we're now at the point where, in addition to having a backup position in case something happens to the department head, the workload in my office has gotten to the point where we needed a second person. I've got 8 or 9, 10 years ahead of me before I retire. When that day comes, will they still need 2 people? I don't know. We'll let Jennifer make that decision, but I can see in the coming years, starting now, it's reached the point where we need a second hand there.
Just so the public briefly understands what you do, public procurement is obviously very important to any community, and it's a precise process.
Yes.
And what you have to go through in order to comply with Chapter 30B, the law.
Right.
Could you just give maybe a short primer so the public understands what this is all about?
In a nutshell, government, and so all the purchasing laws, of which there's many, it's not just 30B, there's building construction laws, there's public works construction laws, there's services and goods laws, there's real estate laws, there's laws on how we get rid of things. And it's all geared around 2 principles. The number one is to prevent fraud. It's to stop government officials, as you read in the news here and there once in a while, of someone gaming the system to put money in their pocket or benefit relatives or friends. And the other principle is to give, as the state says, everybody a bite at the apple. So if we're doing trash collection services, we go out to bid for that, and anybody who wants to offer their services to the city has a fair and equal footing opportunity to place a bid for those services. And those are the 2 principles. And it's governed by various laws and a number of Commonwealth of Massachusetts regulations and rules, in addition to all the laws. And it's very complex, the process the city has to go to bid something out. So much so that I've almost become a de facto lawyer over the years in that realm of handling that. So it's not like a private business where you can just go buy something.
I think the other thing people have to understand too is it's not just about price. I mean, there are some procurement that is basically a bid process where the lowest responsible bidder wins. but sometimes in government, you're looking for other qualitative criteria.
Correct.
And for the public, that's called a request for proposals, because it may not just be the price that you're looking for.
Right.
It may be what the proposer brings to the table in terms of experience, or
Correct.
how they will treat what it is that we want to get done.
Correct, because like you said, the RFP process. It's a scenario the state lets you use a subjective rating system that, again, follows legal guidelines, because when you're looking particularly for services, that's what it's for. It's not for the purchase of goods, as you stated, Counselor. Certain, like the forestry contract we got into last year, which was a 10-year deal, you solicit proposals from various firms, and every firm has a different approach, so you're grading them on their approach and which approach best fits the city's needs. And to speak to your comment about low bid, that is also a misconception as well, because I hear that, and for years I've heard it. There's a minority of people, both on the city side and the public, go, oh, it's low bid, you got to take the low bid. Well, no. When we do a bid, one of the things that's nice is that the law allows, again, within the legal constraints, in a municipality to draft their bid document and their contract the way they see fit. And you can make it as stringent and as detailed as you want. And general bids fall into the low price takes it, but the person who bids, who's low bidder, has to meet all the criteria that you set. It's not you just put it out there and, okay, I need a plumber, and a guy comes off the street with a wrench and says, I'm a plumber. No, you have to meet the criteria that we set. And I will say, and I've been very forward in saying over the years as well, it's not a perfect system. We're a big city. We have many departments. We have many people. Not everybody is operating at the same high level, and occasionally we get a rogue department or a rogue employee here and there who doesn't do their homework because it's their decision to vet out. I don't vet it out. I do the process. I assist them, particularly the small departments who don't have experience. But the larger departments who have people who specialize in whatever it is they're dealing with, it's up to them to vet out these bidders. Do they have the criteria? Do they have the licenses, the certification, the amount of staff, the type of equipment, the experience? And sometimes you get people who say, I don't want to go through all that. And they just take the low bidder, and that low bidder ends up being bad. Yeah. So we have the power to vet these people and only accept good people. So it's not just low price wins it.
I'm just going to, if I can, I just said start at a little after 7 o'clock. I got to start the meeting, and then we'll go back into the hearing. So I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Leominster City Council to order for April 25th, 2022. Will you all please stand and join me for Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will now take a roll call of the honorable members of the Leominster City Council, beginning with Councilor Bedanza.
Present.
Councilor Cormier.
Present.
Councilor Arndinger. Present. Councilor Angelini.
Present.
Councilor Brady.
Present.
Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr.
Present.
Councilor Deacon.
Present.
Councilor Frida.
Present.
And I am present. All 9 members are present. Madam Vice President, do you have any records to approve this evening?
I do, Mr. President. I have the minutes from the April 11th, 2022 meeting. I've reviewed them. I find them to be in good order. And unless any other counselor has any issues as to them, I would ask that they be placed on file.
Okay, unless anybody has any objections, those will be placed on file. Okay. All right, at this time, I'd like to ask for a motion.
So moved.
Councilor Bedanza, seconded by Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr. All those in favor for a recess? Not by a vote of 9-0, we now stand in recess. And Councilor Bedanza, I believe you can continue.
Thank you. I can certainly understand, given how busy you are, that hiring somebody experienced is the last thing in the world you need, because you're not going to have the time to train them. So
No.
it makes perfect sense that they need to be ready to go. I just wonder, so we have an understanding of why S7 as opposed to staying with S5, did one or both of you look at the sort of local market as to what an S7 salary does for us in terms of being able to compete with other communities who are hiring or have on staff an assistant purchasing agent?
I did look, Fitchburg is actually hiring one now, and we will be slightly lower than them. They were at, I think, 72,000, but I saw it after we'd already put in for the F7, so we went up, 2 grades, so hopefully that we will still be able to get a qualified person. And, we don't want somebody who is going to be so experienced also that they, are looking for Greg to leave, in a short period of time. We want somebody to be comfortable, to learn, to grow, and be able to take over in, 10 years.
Looking at the types of qualifications, it's in a finance realm position. That pay, the S7, seems to be on par with people who would be in the experience level we're looking and the type of credentials they need to have to do that. And for those taxpayers who look on, who unfortunately for themselves, don't get to make those kind of salaries, they're not in those kind of educational or job roles, you need to pay a good wage, because we're not just competing with Leominster, you're competing with, the Worcester region and even touching the Boston region. And the well-financed municipalities get the pick of the litter out of the talent pool. And if you want the city to keep moving forward and have good people that do good things for the city, you have to offer a reasonable salary to attract that talent. Otherwise, we're getting the seconds. We're getting the second and third tier people. And sometimes when you have an issue in a department here or there, and I'm sure the veteran council members are aware of that, that's sometimes because we didn't get a good candidate.
What does the S7 pay?
It starts at 62,430 and goes to 80,575.
Okay.
That's over a 7-year, that's the 7-year
All
period
right.
it takes to get there.
Thank you very much.
Councilor Pauline Cormier?
Thank you, Councilor Bedanza stole my last question, so I think I'm good. And thank you for your explanation. And Mr. Chaplin, you know what we think of you, so thank you for
Appreciate
accepting
it.
a little bit of help. And we'll see if we can take some of the burden off your shoulders.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let me go to the council. Saw Councilor Shalfo Zephyrs' hand.
Yeah, thank you very much. Greg, a couple of quick questions. So I know, that you are basically a one-person operation. Do you have any administrative support at all? Are there any clerks? Are there any other
I have
support staff?
one
You-
clerk,
one
secretary,
clerk.
does secretarial duties and some low-level purchasing duties.
Okay. And then another question, this might be for Jen. The S7, the assistant purchasing clerk, is really the assistant department head, right? So I was curious as to throughout the city, if the assistant department heads are consistently in that S7 category. Do you know that? I mean, are they at that level, or are some departments assistants at a lesser classification, lower classification?
I don't know for certain off the top of my head.
I think a lot of them are certain the 7 or 8 is, there might be 2 that are 9s. I know the DPW is a 9. Seems to me there's another one, but I think most of them are in the 7 or 8 range. Of course, it's a funny thing, too, because we have other people who are a step below assistants, and they're in the 7 and 8 range. I'm not saying they're not worth the salary, but while we're currently doing a salary study that'll probably take the rest of the summer, that's being done by a UMass who specializes in that, if you recall that, to look at that, because the salary schedule is skewed in that there's certain people making very good money and other people doing more technical jobs in the city, and this is citywide, not just, in various departments, who are making less. So it's skewed internally, and that's going to affect us going forward, hence why we're having the salary study done to try to rectify that. So.
And that was my next question, so that's not done yet? So
No,
this isn't done within that context?
That takes months of them compiling the data, and they're working on it now. They've been working on it since January, I think, February.
Okay,
So.
all right, thank you.
All set,
Yep,
Councilor?
I'm good.
Councilor Frida?
Greg, we all know how hard you work.
I try.
We've all been there between, your regular job, and then when we add a police station or a school building and all the requests for proposals that go out for all of those and putting the specs together. And then attending all the meetings on top of that, to make sure everybody's following the guideline. Another big factor, I know we've been concerned about it on the MMA level, that people are not going into government jobs. It's a real serious municipal issue, to the point that through Suffolk, there's programs that are trying to encourage young professionals to get into the municipal jobs, whether it's a reluctance for the community to pay, but it's really creating a serious situation. So it is important, as the councilor across from me alluded to, the job is very important to the taxpayer dollar in the community. And we need to represent that. And if it takes a little bit extra money to make sure we get the right people in those positions, and that's pretty important. So I certainly support it 100%.
Anyone else in the council? All right, seeing none, I want to thank you both for.
Thank you,
Down
councilors.
this
We got to
evening?
go to the public as well.
Oh, that's a
We got to
great
go to the
idea,
public
Mr.
as well.
President. Thank you. Is there anyone in the public this evening who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to C-69? For the second time, is there anyone here this evening who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to C-69? And for the third and final time, is there anyone here this evening who would like to speak on behalf of or in opposition to C-69? Seeing none, Mr. President, I'll declare this public hearing closed.
Okay, perfect. Thank you guys very
Now I can
much for
officially
being here.
thank you both.
Okay, we are now going to hold a public forum. The public forum is an opportunity for any member in the audience to speak on any matter specifically listed on the council agenda. Speakers will be asked to come to the microphone and state their formal name and address along with identifying the specific item or items they wish to address. Each speaker is respectfully asked to keep their comments within a 2-minute time frame. The council will not be responding to or answering any questions. However, at the discretion of the council president, clarification may be given. There is nobody signed up, so I will ask, would anybody in the audience like to speak at the public forum? Would anybody in the audience like to speak at the public forum? And for the third and final time, would anybody in the audience like to speak at the public forum? Seeing none, I declare the public forum closed. And we will now be back in session, and we will move right into communications from the mayor. Madam Clerk.
Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests the appointment of Mary Murata, 34 Wheeler Street, Leominster, to the Historical Commission, term to expire April 15th, 2025.
And this appointment is going to be referred to the chairwoman of Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regular course, and we would need to schedule an interview. We're suggesting May 9th at 6:25 p.m.
Okay. That interview will be set up, and this item has been given regular course. Moving on to the next appointment, Madam Clerk.
Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests the appointment of Dianna Santabria, 18 Lawrence Avenue, Leominster, to the Historical Commission, term to expire April 15th, 2025.
And this will also be referred to the chairwoman of Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regular course, and an interview to be scheduled on May 9th at 6:27 p.m.
Okay, and that, Madam Clerk, will also set up that interview. This has also been given regular course. Moving on to reappointments, Madam Clerk.
May I read these in block?
If there's no objection, yeah, you may.
Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests the reappointment of Joseph Tossi, 334 Hill Street, Leominster, to the Board of Appeals, term to expire April 15th, 2025. Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests the reappointment of Nicholas Prevel, 127 Spruce Street, Leominster, to the Board of Appeals as an alternate member, term to expire April 15th, 2023. Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests the reappointment of Richard Dondero, 691 Lancaster Street, Leominster, to the Board of Assessors, term to expire April 15th, 2025. Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests the reappointment of Martin Turbide, 99 Scenic Drive, Leominster, to the Disability Commission, term to expire April 15th, 2025. Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests the reappointment of Gail Turbide, 99 Scenic Drive, Leominster, to the Disability Commission, term to expire April 15th, 2025. Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests the reappointment of James Despo, 2 Helena Street, Leominster, to the Library Board of Trustees, term to expire April 15th, 2025.
And all of these reappointments will also be referred to the Chairwoman of Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regular course?
Okay, and all these reappointments have been given regular course. Moving on to money orders, beginning with C-70, Madam Clerk.
C-70, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requested appropriation of $39,000 be made to the library operating expense account, the same amount to be transferred from the library personnel account, regarding funding books purchases for the rest of the fiscal year.
And this C-70 is referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. First time on the calendar, regular course, please.
C-70 has been given regular course. C-71.
C-71, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requested an appropriation of $217,755 be made to the water debt service principal, the same amount to be transferred from water support services, regarding allows DPW to pay off existing debt services before maturity.
And C-71 is also referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Once again, regular course, please.
C-71's been given regular course. C-72.
C-72, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requested an appropriation of $353,988 be made to the water debt service principal, the same amount to be transferred from water capital outlay, regarding allows DPW to pay off existing debt service fee before maturity.
And C-72 is also referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Regular course, please.
C-72 has been given regular course. C-73.
Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests an appropriation of $112,654 be made to the water debt service principal, the same amount to be transferred from sewer support services, allows DPW to pay off existing debt service before maturity.
And C-73 is also referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Again, first time on the calendar, regular course.
C-73 has been given regular course. C-74.
C-74, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests an appropriation of $118,213 be made to the water debt service principal, the same amount to be transferred from sewer capital outlay, regarding allows DPW to pay off existing debt service before maturity.
And C-74 is also referred to the Chairman of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regular course.
C-74 has been given regular course. Moving on to petitions, first time on the calendar, 52-22, Madam Clerk.
Vincent Ciccolone, on behalf of Sterling Jewelers, Inc., doing business as K Jewelers, number 1285, request to renew license to deal secondhand articles at 100 Commercial Road.
And 52-22 is referred to the Chairwoman of Ways and Means.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regular course?
And 52-22 has been given regular course. Now moving on to matters before the City Council. Mr. Chairman of Finance, do you have a financial report for us this evening?
I do. We began the fiscal year on July 1st with a balance in the stabilization account of $19,904,603. We've added interest during the course of the fiscal year of $40,610, and we appropriated from free cash the sum of $3,700,000. So the total balance with all additions, $23,645,213. Appropriations made since July 1st up and through tonight will total $3,843,998, leaving a balance in the stabilization account of $19,801,215, and that is the financial report.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, does anybody have any questions or comments on the financial report? Seeing none, we will move into items under finance, beginning with C-67. Mr. Chairman, are you ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. C-67, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, request an appropriation of $75,000 be made to the unemployment insurance account, the same amount to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. This line item is on the Munis report, page 3. Item 313-20000, unemployment insurance, originally budgeted at $35,000. There's a transfer in during the course of the fiscal year of $1,164, and spent to date $29,719.37, or 82.2% of the original budgeted amount. There is $15,000 in bills pending that are in the pipeline currently. So as you can see, those exceed what's left in the account of $6,444.86. And there is 6 months of the fiscal year yet to go. So all of that financial information is really just for the first 6 months of the fiscal year. So we're not going to make it without an infusion of additional monies. Historically, this particular line item is underfunded, as it has been this year. Plus, this year, we have a greater than usual need. We've had more unemployment claims than typical. So there's a need to prop this account up with this infusion. And it would be my position, Mr. President, to grant C-67. I'd ask you to poll my committee, please.
Okay, Counselor Pauline Cormier
I agree.
and Counselor Angelini.
I'm in agreement as well, Mr. President.
Okay, you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Finance Committee to grant C-67. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-67 signify in usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-67 has been granted. Does the chairman have an order?
I do, Mr. President. In order that the sum of $75,000 be appropriated to the unemployment insurance account, the same to be transferred from the excess and deficiency account. Move for the adoption of the order.
You've heard the request for the adoption of the order. All those in favor of adopting the order signify by saying yea.
Yea.
Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the order has been adopted on C-67. Moving on to items under legal affairs, beginning with 20-22. Mr. Chairman, are you ready to report?
I am indeed, Mr. President. 20-22, Elizabeth Wood, on behalf of the Planning Board, requests to amend the zoning ordinance pertaining to the parking of unregistered vehicles. As you know, public hearing has been continued to May 23rd, 2022 at 6:50 p.m. We still have referrals out, so at this time, I would be recommending further time, and I'd ask you to poll members of my committee.
Sure, Counsel Bedanza.
Makes sense to me.
Counsel Cormier.
I agree.
Okay, you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee to give 20-22 further time. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of giving 20-22 further time signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, 20-22 has been given further time. Moving on to 48-22, Mr. Chairman.
48-22, Peter Angelini, Ward 5, Counselor, requests to amend the City of Leominster revised ordinances, Section 12-2 is attached. This amendment is proposed to take effect July 1, 2022. Same situation exists, Mr. Chairman. The Planning Board is actually taking this matter up at their next meeting, so I'll be looking for further time. We have a public hearing scheduled for May 9th at 6:30 p.m. So again, I would be asking for further time on this, and I would ask you to poll members of my committee.
Thank you. Counsel Pedanza.
I'm in favor of further time.
Counsel Pauline Cormier.
I agree.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation to give 48-22 further time. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of giving 48-22 further time signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, 48-22 has been given further time. 49-22.
Yes, excuse me, Mr. President. 49-22, Elizabeth Wood, on behalf of the Planning Board, requests to amend the zoning ordinance pertaining to solar ordinance, Article 3, Table of Use in Section 22-104 of zoning per attached letter. Same situation exists, Mr. President. We have a public hearing scheduled for May 9th, 2022 at 6:50 p.m. So I will be recommending further time, and I would ask you to poll members of my committee.
Okay, Counsel Pedanza.
I'm in favor of further time.
Counsel Pauline Cormier.
I agree.
Okay, you've heard the unanimous recommendation to give 49-22 further time. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of giving 49-
Oh, I saw your hand raised, I wasn't sure if you did it. I saw you raise your hand, so I wasn't sure.
Okay. All those in favor of giving 49-22 further time signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, 49-22 has also been given further time. Moving on to C-69, Mr. Chairman.
C-69, Dean J. Mazzarella, Mayor, requests that the following sections of the City of Leominster Revised Ordinance, Chapter 16, Personnel, Article 2, Personnel, Wage and Salary Plan, Division 3, Classification Plan, Section 16-34, Classification of Positions, be amended, effective immediately, to replace the existing classification with the new classification plan presented below. And again, we have a brief summary here. Assistant Purchasing Agent, the current classification is S5, and you'd like to insert in their place the following: Assistant Purchasing Agent classification S7. Mr. President, earlier this evening, we had Ms. Reddington and Mr. Chapdelaine. Thought they gave a very detailed presentation and some outstanding questions from members of the council as well. I think reinforced my belief that we've come to the point in the city with the amount of projects that we have and the federal money that's accompanied the COVID influenza virus. And I think it would be a great idea to kick this classification up to S7, and hopefully we can locate the personnel needed to fill this spot and give Mr. Chapdelaine the help he needs and help us move some of these projects down the road in a more expeditious manner. So my position would be certainly to grant C69, and I would ask you to poll members of my committee.
Councilor Bedanza?
Yeah, it's a critical position. This is really long overdue. Greg works very hard, and it's highly important for the cities to function, to be able to purchase things in an efficient way, and I think the upgrade is necessary to attract the right type of personnel, so I'm in favor of this.
And Councilor Cormier?
Yeah, I agree. I think that this bump is going to give us a more qualified hiring pool, per se, so I am in favor of this as well.
Okay, so you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee to grant C-69. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-69 signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-69 has been granted. Moving on to items under Ways and Means, C-68, Madam Clerk, Madam Chair of Ways and Means, are you ready to report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. C-68, Dean J. Mazzarella. Mayor requests the acceptance of the CDBG Budget Action Plan for the City of Leominster, Year 48. We had a public hearing this evening. Ellen Racine, the administrator of the program, was here. As always, she gives a good explanation, a detailed explanation of what exactly the program does, what it offers, and what it means to the community. Again, these monies are controlled and dictated by HUD, which is she has managed to do for a number of years now. As she said, the housing rehab program alone served 135 people last year. So the budget she has proposed this year is based on, it is an estimate, but it's based on what she expects that we will receive, and those expectations are based on her experience, what they've done in the past. So with all that information, it would be my position to approve and accept the CDBG budget action plan, and I'd ask you to poll the members of my committee.
Okay, Councilor Archer?
I certainly would agree.
Okay, Councilor Deakin?
I agree.
Okay, you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Ways and Means Committee to, Councilor Schaffel-Zephyr?
I will be abstaining from this vote because I do have a conflict of interest with one of the organizations.
I do understand. Thank you very much. Is it Councilor Frida?
Yeah, I agree as well, and I'm not going to abstain, but I will make a note that I'm a director of Catholic Charities, so I'll be exempt from that. But just to make sure people realize that this is clearly a mayor's program. We have nothing to do with it. We can't change it. And it's always subject to whoever is in the presidency and the federal government. Many years it's been threatened to not get it at all. We've gone down from probably $600,000 or $700,000 in the past down to what she's estimating, and not even 500. So it's a vital program, but hopefully we will continue to get it. So.
Counselor Shalfo-Zephyr?
You know, I'd like to amend that and just abstain from the Ginny's Helping Hand portion of that, if that's possible, because I do support the program. I know how hard Ms. Racine works, and the process, especially for the nonprofits, the public service agencies that are helped, it's very public, and people come into City Hall, they have to apply for it, and there's a public hearing, and everybody who is applying for money gets up and tells their story and what the money's going to be used for. So it's a very important program, even though it's a small part of the overall funding, but the housing rehab work, the other work that CDBG does is very important, so I'd like to support that.
Okay, is there any other discussion on C-68? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting C-68 signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, C-68 has been granted. Moving on to 50-22. Is the chairwoman ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. Entertainment Cinemas Boulevard, request to renew theater license located at 45 Sac Boulevard. Mr. President, as we know, the application process includes the application itself, a letter in good standing from the tax collector of the City of Leominster and the Leominster Police Department, as well as a certificate of liability insurance. I can tell you that all those documents are in, all those referrals are in, the documents are in, they all are in good order. So it'll be my position to renew the license.
Okay, and I'll check with Counselor Arndinger.
I certainly agree.
And Counselor Deacon?
I agree.
Okay, you've heard the unanimous recommendation to grant 50-22. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting 50-22 signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, 50-22 has been granted. Moving on to 51-22.
Thank you, Mr. President. Christopher Revard requests to renew transient vendor license for the sale of flowers and plants. A little bit of a different application process, but I can tell you that his application is it's in good order, and the referral from the police department is in favorable and in good order. It would be my position to renew the vendor license, and I'd ask you to poll the members of my committee.
Okay, Counselor Arndinger?
I agree.
Counselor Deacon?
I agree.
Okay, you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Ways and Means Committee to grant 51-22. Is there any discussion? Counselor Frida?
Yeah, I'd just be curious to see how long Christopher Revard's been doing this. It's got to be almost 30 years that I can recall. Every year it comes to us, so I just,
When I talked to him, he said it was 36. I believe.
36. I know he was here when I started, so.
Yeah.
A lot of flowers.
A long time. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of granting 51-22 signify in the usual manner. Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, 51-22 has been granted. Moving on to items under old business. We have 2 second readings of an ordinance. The first one being 39-22, and I will refer this to the chairman of Legal Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a second reading of an ordinance in the year 2022. An ordinance be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Leominster as follows. Amending Chapter 1 of the revised ordinances entitled General Provisions. Chapter 1 of the revised ordinances entitled General Provisions is hereby amended by inserting the following new section entitled Electioneering Policy. Section 1-12, Electioneering Policy. No poster, card, handbill, placard, picture, or circular intended to influence the action of a voter, other than those expressly authorized by General Law, Chapter 54, Section 65, shall be posted, exhibited, circulated, or distributed in the city clerk's office, the city's municipal building at 25 West Street, or within 150 feet of the municipal building entrance doors accessible to the public during each designated absentee or early voting period of time that permits the casting of in-person votes. I would certainly recommend that we adopt the second reading of this ordinance, and I would ask you to poll members of my committee, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Councilor Bedanza.
I'm in favor.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
I agree.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee to adopt the second reading of 39-22. Is there any discussion? Councilor Frida.
I just have a question. I'd like to offer an amendment, but I'll, through the chair, if I can refer to the clerk. Just looking at it over the weekend, I think it would be important, after no poster, card, handbill, placard, picture, or circular, I think we also should add clothing, shirts, hats. I mean, there are people going in and out of election sites with shirts on and hats that are certainly not covered.
So we mimic the law exactly as the state requires it, and as the state requires us to enforce it at this time, anybody who goes in with clothing that has a political allegiance to something that is on the ballot has to be removed or cover it in some way. So it would be enforced the same way as it is now, and it's exactly the same wording that's the Mass General Law. I don't mind amending it because it won't hurt anything, but it's the same law in use that we do for elections regularly, and that is something
I just think it would be important to have it in there, because
Yeah.
if people don't know the law and you hand them this law,
Yeah,
it'll be included in there.
I'm okay with that. I have no problem with that.
So Councilor Frida, are you formally asking for an amendment to?
I am.
To read, or any article of clothing?
Well, we're, the ordinance that is proposed begins with no poster, card, handbill, placard, picture, or circular intended to influence the action of a voter. So if we had no poster, card, handbill, placard, picture, circular, or, I don't know if we just want to put clothing, if that's general enough, or
Any article of clothing?
shirt and hat, or, I mean, I don't know how we want to, I mean, usually it's a shirt or a hat.
You have to cover it up.
Clothing?
Or tattoos.
I would,
Article
I
of
think I would
adornment.
put, or any article of clothing,
Just put article of adornment.
of adornment,
Adornment. They'll cover everything.
okay? Or
Because
article
there's
of,
actually more of those than anybody
article
trying
of
to hand out
adornment.
Yeah.
cards.
Okay, so are you okay with article, or any article of adornment? That okay for your amendment?
Well, I guess that'd cover a tattoo, too.
Okay.
Somebody wants a tattoo.
And do we have, so we have a motion on the floor, do we have a second? Councilor Shalfo Zephyr is seconding that. So now, do we have any discussion on this amendment? Councilor Shalfo Zephyr?
Yeah, I have a question. So I understand adornment, I mean, but would people argue that clothing is not an adornment? It is a necessary, people have to wear shirts. I mean, I don't know. What's the,
Let's look it up.
look up,
I
the
think- I think
definition.
clothing covers
Is
it.
adornment.
I think clothing is what the
Doesn't-
point is getting
Clothing
at.
doesn't cover a tattoo.
So Merriam-Webster says, an adornment is a thing which adorns or decorates an ornament. So like a necktie, a necklace, it gives examples. So I would say that would cover it. Possibly.
If you need clothing or adornment, put clothing or adornment.
Adornment, including clothing.
It doesn't
same
work
thing.
grammatically. It's
I mean,
gonna
this is
be
for the public, so I think clothing is better understood by,
Clothing or adornment.
or adornment, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That works.
So, Councilor Frida, you want to revise your amendment to say, or any article of clothing or adornment?
That works.
Okay? And are you okay with seconding that still, Councilor Shalfo Zephyr?
I am, thank you.
All right, so do we have any other discussion on this amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of amending, I'm going to do this in a roll call vote since it is an ordinance. All those in favor of amending to add the words, or any article of clothing or adornment, I will now go to Councilor Bedanza for a yea or nay vote to
Yea.
accept this. Councilor Cormier?
Yay.
Councilor Arndinger?
Yay.
Councilor Angelini?
Yay.
Councilor Brady?
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr?
Yay.
Councilor Deacon?
Yay.
Councilor Frida?
Yay.
And I will be recorded as yay. So this second reading of an ordinance has been amended, and I would like to send this back to the chairman for an official recommendation on the amended version of 39-22, please.
Mr. President, my recommendation on the amended version of 3922 would be to adopt the second amended reading.
Okay.
And I would ask you to poll members of my committee as well.
Okay, Council Bedanza?
I'm in favor.
Council Pauline Cormier?
I agree.
Okay, so do we have a unanimous recommendation now from the Legal Affairs Committee to grant the amended version of 39-22. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will do this in a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Bedanza.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Arndinger.
Yay.
Councilor Angelini.
Yay.
Councilor Brady.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Deacon.
Yay.
Councilor Frida.
Yay.
And I will be recorded as yay by a vote of 9-0. The amended version of 39-22 has been adopted. The second reading of that has been adopted. Moving on to 24-22, that is the second reading we have on the agenda this evening, and is the chairman of Legal Affairs ready to report?
He is indeed, Mr. President. The second reading of an ordinance. Elizabeth Wood, on behalf of the Planning Board, requests to amend the zoning ordinance pertaining to performance guarantees for site plans. In the year 2022, an ordinance be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Leominster as follows. Article 11 of the zoning ordinance entitled Site Plan Approval is hereby amended by adding the following subsections to Section 29.59, Application. 59.1, Performance Guarantee. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53G and a half, the Planning Board may require the applicant for site plan to file with the board, as a condition of approval, a bond or other such surety acceptable in form and amount to the Planning Board. This surety is to cover costs of construction, such as driveways, utilities, landscaping, and other site improvements, but not limited to erosion control measures and off-site environmental impacts, which left incomplete or improperly constructed present a public health and safety hazard or nuisance. Further, a performance agreement between the applicant and the city will specify the manner in which the on- or off-site improvements will be completed, in the specific manner and time frame, a maximum of 1 year, in which the work will be completed and the surety will be released. Said bond will be held by the city treasurer in an interest-bearing account. 59.1.1, Release of Performance Guarantee. Upon completion of all or portion of the improvements required by the performance agreement entered under Section 59.1 of this ordinance, the applicant may request either partial or full release of his or her bond or other such surety as has been posted by the applicant pursuant to Section 59.1 by sending a statement of completion and a request for a release by the Planning Board to the city clerk and date stamped by the city clerk. It shall then be forwarded to the Planning Board for a determination. If the Planning Board determines that said construction has been completely, fully, or partially, it shall release fully or partially the interest of the city in such bond or other surety and return it to the person who furnished it. 59.1.2, Refusal of release. If the Planning Board determines that said site improvements have not been either fully or adequately completed, it shall specify in a notice sent by registered mail to the applicant and to the city clerk the details wherein said site improvements fail to comply with the requirements of this zoning ordinance. 59.1.3, Exercise of Performance Guarantee. If the site plan is not completed to the satisfaction of the Planning Board within the specified time frame designated by the board has the authority to exercise the surety, bond, or passbook account in order to complete the required improvements as designated in site plan approval. Mr. President, it would be my position that we adopt the second reading of this ordinance, and I would ask you to poll members of my committee.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation of the chair. Councilor Bedanza.
I'm in favor.
Councilor Cormier.
I also agree.
Okay, so that looks like a unanimous recommendation from the Legal Affairs Committee to adopt the second reading of 24-22. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we will do this in a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Bedanza.
Yay.
Councilor Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Arndinger. Yay. Councilor Angelini.
Yay.
Councilor Brady.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Deacon.
Yay.
Councilor Frida.
Yay.
And I will be recorded as yay by a vote of 9-0. The second reading of 24-22 has been adopted. Moving on to items under the community calendar. Councilor Deacon, I think I saw your hand.
We still under old business?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Do you have some more old business?
I do.
Go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify, after we talked about the elderly and disabled tax fund, the last couple of meetings, this was actually sent to me, and I'd just like to read it. This is what every Leominster resident got. So November 23rd, 1998, the Leominster City Council accepted the provisions of Chapter 60, Section 3D, allowing the city to establish an elderly and disabled tax aid fund. This allows taxpayers of the city of Leominster to voluntarily donate and pledge an amount of not less than $1 to this fund. The purpose of this fund will be to help defray the real estate taxes of elderly and disabled persons of low income. A taxation aid committee chaired by the chairman of the Board of Assessors and the treasurer will be set up, with the mayor appointing 3 residents to the board. This board will adopt regulations necessary to identify the recipients of such aid. Contributions can be made by completing and forwarding the donation form below with your excise tax or real estate tax bill. Direct donations are also accepted at the treasurer's office at any time. Please make a separate check payable to the Elderly and Disabled Tax Fund and mail it to the City of Leominster, Elderly and Disabled Tax Fund, 25 West Street, Leominster. Thank you in advance for your contribution to this worthy cause. So I'm guessing this, I don't remember looking at it, but I guess it's gone into every tax or excise bill. And after I got this, I looked up Chapter 60, Section 3D, and it's really very specific in the Mass General Law. That we have to, the board or commission has to authorize, or it can grant the authority to another agency investing the funds that are meant for this purpose. And it says, in any city or town, establish an aid to the elderly and disabled taxation fund. There shall be a taxation aid committee to consist of the chairman of the board, assessors, and or a board of selectmen, as the case may be. Said board shall adopt rules and regulations to carry out the provisions of this section and to identify the recipients of such aid. I was here in 1998 when we voted it in, so I don't remember. I remember adopting that law, but maybe we should look at it if there are going to be more people with the way the market's going, and make sure that, I don't know, I got the distinct impression by the person that called me on this was embarrassed to call, so wanted to know who was on the committee before they made the call. So maybe we should check and find out if the committee should be set up properly, or review it and make sure that we actually did vote in '98 on it the way this says, because I remember it, but I don't remember details on it. It was a long time ago. So, I mean, I just think we ought to, where it is Mass General Law, we ought to comply with it the way it should be set up. I mean, maybe we haven't, maybe people haven't asked for funds.
No,
so.
as I reported at a prior meeting, they usually deal with about 4 applications a year. Very hard to meet the criteria, according to the chief assessor. He also reported to me directly that the committee, at least here locally, consisted of himself, the treasurer, and 1 citizen that is appointed by them each year, and it's been someone different each year. That's what's been reported to me.
So it's supposed to be 3. So maybe we need to get back and the committee can draw the criteria by the sounds of it. So maybe they can look at that. Maybe they can help more people with it.
But what do you want to do specifically? Did you want the chief assessor to come down here?
No, I don't know that that's necessary.
Okay.
But, I just like to get it as close to the law as possible.
I can communicate it to Mr. Connor.
I mean, I can talk to David too. But
Okay.
I'm just saying, this is somebody that's calling me, so I want to address it the way we should.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Is there any other old business? Are we all good with old business? Community calendar, Councilor Deacon, I think I saw your hand.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think by now, all council should be aware of, we avoided a very serious, tragic accident over the weekend with one of our officers, Officer Hardy. I spoke to the chief today, and he's going to have a long road ahead of him. But I think it's important that we, as a council, acknowledge him, think of him and his family, and support him any way we can, not just medically. We had both chiefs here a few meetings ago, and they told us what they're up against in regards to funding and basically more manpower. Knowing firsthand, as a former police officer, I know the trauma that Officer Hardy is enduring, whether it's psychologically, emotionally, physically. I think we should just take a moment and acknowledge him and his family and wish him recovery very well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we certainly are all thinking of him and his family and all the officers over there. I know that the emotional piece is probably for everybody that's on the department that, had to respond and, was checking in on him and his family. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilor Deacon, for recognizing that. And we do hope that he has a very speedy recovery. Okay. Is there any other items to come under the community calendar? Seeing none. We don't have any new business on here. Okay. All right, so do we have a motion to adjourn? I've seen Councilor Angelini was very anxious to be the first one. And do we have a second? And Councilor Bedanza. So we have a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Those opposed, by a vote of 9-0, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much. Where is he?
The Leominster City Council meeting is funded in part by DeCarolis Insurance Agency at www.decarolisInsuranceagency.com and by Avidia Bank at www.avidiabank.com.